We are not the first to upcycle furniture. It is called a Spinet Desk because they were made out of old harpsichords when they were finished. Got a fold down top. It's got a pull out section here. Needs a bit of wax, but works. Someone has done some interesting patina painting on it where they didn't actually do this part, but they did this part, and you can see this is not very nice. It's quite filthy. I like y'all to see it before I do anything to it. The light's not very good, but if you were able to look into the back of the cubbies, you would see that it looks to be pine back there. So I don't think it's very good wood under here, but we're going to strip it down and see what we've got. Before we start stripping this piece, what we need to know is if this paint is a lead-based paint. Because if it is, then you need to use a lot more caution with that. It can be stripped, but you don't want particles everywhere. So we're going to take a lead test kit, and I'll put a link for these in the bottom. But I just picked them up off Amazon. And you just take your white vinegar and you dip your Q-tip in it, and then you're going to rub the back or the paint that you're going to be stripping, and then we're going to wait on it to change colors. Wait 30 seconds and we'll see what color it changes. Right now it's just dirty color. So we'll just see what happens. If it stays kind of this orange yellow color, there's no lead detected. If it goes into the purple range, then it's probably a lead-based paint. So we're going to hope it continues to stay this kind of yellow color. And when in doubt, test again. Alex, we're going to refilm that because I'm not real sure about those results. So I'd rather give a definitive answer. All right, I've just cleaned that paint off a bit. Anything that might have been painted before 1970, you definitely want to check it for lead. So keep these on hand if you do a lot of paint stripping, and that way you can keep yourself safe. So now we've got this piece all stripped. I took it apart. I took the cubby part off. I took the top off. Something rattling. Oh. Well, we have treasures. We have rabies tags from 1936. And we've already made money on this piece. We made $50 on this piece so far. The wood grain is not what I would hope for. This kind of looks like butcher block to me. That's just what it reminds me of, is butcher block. I've not sanded this yet. We basically just stripped it down. But you can get a good look here. This had no paint on it at all. But it reminds me of butcher block, which is great in the kitchen, but not quite the look that I want to go for on a desk. We are not the first to upcycle furniture, nor will we be the last. People have done it long before we came along and thought that this was a great idea. So if you get a piece and you want to upcycle it, don't feel bad about it. Just be sure that it's not something that is truly, truly valuable, and do your research on it. The Spinet Desk is really quite interesting. It is an upcycle. What was a spent piano or harpsichord, when the wires would wear out, they would cut those down and make desks out of them. The Spinet Desk was made in the 1800s, and in the early 1900s, a company in Grand Rapids, Michigan started making them. So I don't know the age of this piece. Is it an antique? Yes, technically, but it is not what it originally started out to be. Doing some research on them, but I have nothing. There's no stamps. This one, I would make a bet, was probably made local. In the 1950s, 60% of all furniture that was that was sold in the United States was made within 150 miles of High Point, North Carolina. And that's because of the railroads. I bought it on auction because no one else bought it, and I felt sorry for it, and I thought it could, it had potential and could turn into something pretty, even though it was quite ugly when I bought it. While I was sanding, I went ahead and put everything kind of back in its place just to see how it was looking, and looking pretty clean, but nothing is fastened in. But I just wanted to see how it would look sanded down, and it's quite obvious that this piece was never, it was never stained. Probably was always painted. It's an okay wood, but it's not a very pretty wood. Most of these in the past were made out of mahogany, walnut, or maple. Whatever this is, I've seen prettier wood. So let's take a look at what we've got. This piece will be hinged to this piece. I'm going to take those away. And then this piece also would be hinged to that. These we're going to change up, and we're going to put drawers in here. So we're going to take these away. Be drawers down here as well. And then this will be left as is, because the drawers are going to go in here. And then that way they won't scrape here, because that's lifted up a little bit. These moldings come off because I've not attached them again yet. This is the really cool part about this desk, is that this slides out to give you some storage in there. And you could also put your laptop up there when it's not in use. Stick your laptop down in there. It's really quite a cool, nifty little desk. The back was never finished on this piece, but I am going to finish it. We are going to paint this piece. I know a lot of people just died inside, but this piece was already a piece that was an upcycled piece. So I do not feel bad about doing that. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to seal the entire piece with shellac. Now that does two things. Number one, it keeps the wood from bleeding. I don't think we'll have a great deal of bleed through on this piece, but it will protect it from doing that. Number two is that it will seal this wood so that when I do put on primer or paint, it doesn't soak into the fibers of the wood. That way, in the future, should anyone want to take this back to wood, they could do that quite easily. Think about the generations to come and what you can do, because somebody eventually will paint this again, or they may sand it down, take it back down to wood, and if they do, that's okay, because I'm going to seal this, seal those fibers so that the paint doesn't soak down into them, so that whoever has this next will not have the same problems I had. So this is just the shellac flakes mixed with denatured alcohol. I had Alex to mix this, and he mixed me up a 2-pound cut of shellac, and that lets me be able to thin it down even more if I just want to use this as a light top coat, putting more coats on. Only this one is in flakes, and we get it off Amazon, and he'll put the link down below. This just is a more economical way to get shellac and to get different cuts that you want. If you do a lot of shellac, this is definitely a better way to go, because shellac doesn't have a long shelf life, and that can may be sitting on the shelf or in a warehouse for quite some time before you actually buy it. And sometimes that's why it's quite thick and not very easy to use when you buy it pre-mixed. So if you're going to use a lot of it, or you want it fresh every time you use it, then this is definitely the better way to go. This is going to just seal this wood, and that way should anyone ever want to take it back to a natural wood. It makes it easier. It also stops the wood from bleeding through our paint. And it's a nice bonding agent as well. Usually I would just go ahead and prime, but this piece, I am future-proofing it so that should anyone ever want to take it back to a natural state, they could do so quite easily. I've already done these on the front and sanded them, so I'm just going to flip them over and do the backs as well. I've already done this piece and sanded it. This dries so quickly that you'll be ready to move on to the next step very soon. I really don't think that these would bleed, but it's always better safe than sorry, and it also just preps that wood and seals those pores. It's going to give that paint something to grip to as well. A lot of yellow in this wood. All right, I'm going to go do the rest of this, and I'll meet back up with you for the next step. There's always little air bubbles in shellac, so I'm just sanding those off, and then we'll get started with paint. This thing is almost as soft as my face, which depending on the day and the time of year, but you get the point. It's pretty soft. I always keep the nice well-worn ones, or have one floating about, because sometimes you just need that soft touch. 4/0 steel wool would do the same thing, and sometimes even a paper bag. I mean, that's the softness that we're talking about. You just don't need anything too harsh. I'm just going to fill over the rest of this, make sure. So I've already sanded the rest of it while it was upright, but I like doing the legs first. This is a chalk paint that I made myself, custom color. So if you want to see how to mix your own chalk paint, I do have a video on that, and you can take a look at that. Just lets you make the colors you want. We're just going to start putting this on. There's going to be a lot of layering of colors, and should be lots of fun. The way that I mix my chalk paint is just with calcium carbonate. You can also do it with plaster of Paris. The thing is, I use calcium carbonate because it gives me a longer shelf life. This can sit on the shelf for months and still be usable. Whereas with plaster of Paris, because it is a product that was built to get hard, it will also make your paint get hard in its container. And so I just find it better to do calcium carbonate if it's not something that I'm going to use right away, or, you know, not going to use all of it. I have this desk I'll take into pieces to get a really good paint job, but you know, you don't have to do that. I did it to strip it down really well. I wanted all of that kind of olive green color off, and that was one way to be sure that I could do that. Plus, if I break anything, we actually have the tools in the shop to put it back together, but not everyone has that luxury. And I'm just doing this in a really thin coat. There's no need to pile it on. I have plenty of time, and can go back and add as many coats as I need. It's got good coverage. So, and as I say, there's going to be many layers of different colors and a lot of blending colors together. We're going to do some decoupage on this piece. Yeah, I'm not sure what all I'm going to do. It will tell me as I am doing it. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. We would love a comment. All of these things really help us and help us to move up in the algorithm. And we hope that we help with knowledge and definitely want to entertain. And if there's anything that you want to see done, any techniques that you're wondering about, please ask. I am happy to share knowledge and help to give people the confidence to do things like this. So I am always willing to try a technique if I haven't done it yet, because I love to learn and experiment. I have been doing this for many, many years. I did it actually when I was a teenager. I know, very odd, but I really liked taking a piece of furniture and transforming it. And my mother, luckily, was quite glad that I did that. She always had different looks. And it kept me busy and out of trouble. Okay, so now that we have these pieces all blue, we're going to leave them overnight to dry. And then tomorrow we're going to do some more fun stuff with it. Put it back together first. And then we'll start adding some color layers to this. I think this is going to be an amazing piece. And I hope you continue to follow along with it. But for now, I'm going to call it a day, and I will see you again in the morning. This video has so much going on that I'm afraid that we have to break it into more than one video. Hit the bell notification and you'll be notified when new videos come out.